We stood there for half an hour, taking hits from incoming rocks and fireworks. Heavy fireworks were thrown at us. We could feel the air pressure on our chests. I saw a colleague a few feet in front of me, in the middle of a fireball. He grabbed his ears and ran away. You see the impact of those brown mortar balls hitting right next to you. You don't even realize the explosion. Your ears can't take it. Your hearing shuts off. It looks like daylight, while it's pitch black. Everything goes in slow motion. And then the realization comes, we're not going to hold it. There's one more tool, your firearm. Never had to use it before, but at that moment you think, I'm going to die. You shoot warning shots in the air. That has zero effect. Another shot in the air. Again, zero effect. You see your colleagues also shooting in the air, and still they continue. At that moment you decide, I have 30 rounds and I cannot shoot them all in the air. The next shot will be on target. With these words, police officers described the scenes that took place in my country on Friday the 19th. I wanted to share with you, well, first because, at least in my experience, we do not get to hear their perspectives very often. And second, it does not happen very often in my lifetime that live ammunition is used against a crowd. The scene occurred in the city of Rotterdam, where an anti-COVID measure protest turned violent between said rioters and the police. Scenes like this, scenes that are more brutal, scenes that are less brutal, more violent, less violent, deadlier, less deadly, they happen on a daily basis on a global scale. Events and incidents like these occur without them ever reaching the limelight of mainstream coverage. But then why did I pick this one? Well, this one hits home in a different way. While I understand the frustration of these rioters, nothing will be solved by targeting the men and women that serve to protect us. The Dutch Prime Minister commented, I stand by you and your right to protest. What I do not support is the use of pure violence by idiots under the guise of protests, targeting those who keep this country safe. This is your Global Security Flashpoint. The day is the 28th of November. In this Flashpoint, besides Rotterdam, we will take a look at Egypt, Congo's Ituri province, SpaceX, the Solomon Islands, and relations between China and the West. On Monday, a new report by investigative website Disclose reached mainstream coverage. The report claims that Egypt has used intelligence supplied by the French military as part of Operation Sirli, aimed at intelligence provision on security threats along Egypt's western border with Libya. The report says French intelligence has been implicated in at least 19 Egyptian air attacks against civilians between 2016 and 2018. The article claims the French side had reservations about this operation, which started in 2016 because the focus is said to have quickly shifted from tracking terrorists to taking down civilian smugglers. Both Parliament, the French Parliament, and the French Ministry of Defense reportedly called for investigations. Neither the French presidency nor the military responded to requests for comments from the journalists who carry out the investigation. However, allegedly, within hours of publication, the French Defense Department did confirm that an agreement existed between France and Egypt on counterterrorism intelligence sharing. Citing alleged security reasons, however, they did not say any more on the matter. On Tuesday, it became known that a militia launched another deadly attack and killed civilians inside a displaced people camp. While the total death toll is disputed, about 30 civilians have been killed in Drodro, Largu, and other nearby villages in Jugu territory in Ituri province, during attacks attributed to the Cooperative for the Development of Congo militant group between November 21st and 22. According to locals, the Codeco militia targeted a site hosting internally displaced persons in Drodro and part of the village's parish. They are said to have burned down several shelters to the ground. The federal DRC army was supposedly slow with its response. Last week, the Kivu Security Monitor said that at least 1,137 civilians were killed in North Kivu and Ituri since President Felix Tshisekedi proclaimed a state of siege in these provinces back in May. To shift to slightly more optimistic news, on Wednesday, SpaceX made history again by launching the DART probe. Early on Wednesday, SpaceX fired a small NASA probe into space, setting up a head-on 15,000 miles per hour collision next September to test the feasibility of nudging a threatening body off its course a long time before it could crash into Earth. The $330 million Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, is the first of its kind. A test flight in NASA's Planetary Defense Initiative. With DART, deflection, not destruction, is said to be the goal. It will take DART approximately 10 months to reach its target, a 520-foot wide asteroid known as Dimorphos, that orbits the half-mile wide Didymos. Neither is believed to pose any threat to Earth, either before or after the DART encounter. But the double asteroid system offers an attractive target to DART because the probe's impact can be more easily measured from Earth by precisely timing how the moonlet's orbital period around Didymos changes as a result of the collision. The 1,210-pound DART spacecraft is expected to slam into Dimorphos at a blistering 15,000 miles per hour, disintegrating on impact as it gouges out a fresh crater and, in the process, slows the body by a minuscule fraction of an inch per second. On Thursday, it became known that Australia is sending troops to the Solomon Islands, which, at least to me, is a first. I do not have any active recollection of having seen the words Australia and deployed troops so prominently. Not trying to say that it hasn't happened. I'm not that old yet, so maybe it was in a period that I wasn't that interested in international affairs, so let's just say it doesn't happen very often. The violence reportedly began on Wednesday when protesters stormed Parliament in a bid to topple the Prime Minister. On Thursday, crowds defied a lockdown and set fire to government buildings, a police station, and businesses. Prime Minister Scott Morrison of Australia said police and army personnel would provide stability and security to the Pacific Island nation. A 36-hour curfew was imposed following the unrest. However, rioters defied it to take to the streets in Honaria's Chinatown district. Most of the protesters are reportedly from the neighboring island of Malaita, which has long complained of neglect from the central government. Malaita has also strongly opposed Prime Minister Sogavare's switch in diplomatic relations from Taiwan to China back in 2019, leading rioters to target Chinese-owned businesses in the unrest, allegedly. Now the next piece is not from Friday. It's more of a trend piece I put together because I noticed how much relations appear to be moving in a negative direction. And of course this concerns the souring of Chinese diplomatic relations with the West. In a move that will most certainly piss off Beijing lawmakers, President Biden reportedly invited Taiwan to an upcoming virtual democracy summit to be held on December 9 and 10. Taiwan was included as one of 110 nations. The article claims that Russia, China, Turkey, Sudan, Myanmar, and Afghanistan were not invited. Taiwan's foreign minister said that the government would be represented at the event by Digital Minister Audrey Tang and Xiaobi Kim, Taiwan's alleged de facto ambassador in Washington. On Wednesday, Taipei thanked Biden for its inclusion. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said that Beijing, quote, firmly opposes the US invitation to the Taiwan authorities to participate in the so-called Summit for Democracy, end quote, and that Taiwan is, quote, an inalienable part of Chinese territory, end quote. Now, switching from US-China relations to EU-China relations, it became known that the EU supposedly is set to renew sanctions on Chinese officials for alleged Xinjiang abuses. Adoptions of the renewal is expected in early December, after member states' ambassadors give the go-ahead, quote, without discussion, end quote. If adopted, the measures against 4 officials and 1 entity will roll over in March, 1 year after they came into force. In Germany, a 177-page government negotiation deal between the new 3-party coalition government was also unveiled, with China being mentioned more than a dozen times and human rights topics related to China's Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Taiwan regions being referred to. Some unnamed media interpreted it as a sign of a tough China policy, which may imply a change from Merkel's alleged pragmatic strategy. Now, the next is a quote by Sui Hongjian, the director of the Department of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. That's a whole mouthful. Compared with Merkel, who sought a balanced and stable strategy on China, the new agreement demonstrated a radical attitude, especially by mentioning China's domestic affairs in it. This may have been brought by the Green Party and Free Democrats, but it remains to be seen whether their political influence would be implemented. Now, I believe the next part is paraphrased, but in response to the whole affair, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian told a press conference that Taiwan, the South China Sea, Xinjiang, and Hong Kong are all China's internal affairs and related to China's integrity and sovereignty. Successive German governments allegedly all adhered to the One China principle, and we hope the new government would carry on with the policy, respect China's core interests, and defend the political foundation of bilateral ties. Now, just when I thought that I was done for the week and frankly things couldn't get much worse in diplomatic sense, the news reached me of further blacklisting of Chinese companies by the US Commerce Department. China reportedly criticized the United States for putting a dozen Chinese companies on its trade blacklist over national security and foreign policy concerns, allegedly citing in some cases their help developing Chinese military's quantum computing efforts. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said in a statement on Wednesday that the new listings will help prevent US technology from supporting the development of Chinese and Russian, quote, military advancement and activities of non-proliferation concerning like Pakistan's unsafeguarded nuclear activities or ballistic missile program, end quote. The department allegedly said that several entities and individuals from China and Pakistan were added to the Commerce Department's list for contributing to Pakistan's nuclear activities or ballistic missile program. In total, 27 new entities were added to the list from China, Japan, Pakistan, and Singapore. Now, people, myself included, say how fast this world moves. Yet it suddenly became so evident to me as by doing the show for you. In an eventful week, I'm glad saying that this one at least is over and we're looking forward to the next one. This has been your Flashpoint for November 28th. See you all next week.